Good morning, watch folk. Once again, allow me to apologise for the splint that you may see on the finger of my right hand. Now, this was done fighting off a group of terrorists attempting to steal my quartz-powered Pagani design PD1644. I'm sure you all know that Zelios are a large microband owned by El Shang Tang, and they're based in Singapore, albeit the watches were almost certainly produced in China. Not that that should bother any of you. I've purchased a total of 5 Zelios watches, although the one I'm reviewing today is the only one presently in my collection. My first was a 42mm swordfish in titanium. Unfortunately, I found it a little bit large and I realised I don't really like titanium. I flipped it and I bought a swordfish 40. I thought that was a much nicer watch, but ended up selling it to fund something else, but I can't remember what. I then bought a Mako in bronze. This was my third attempt at owning a bronze watch, but I've now given up on the idea because I simply can't stand them going all manky, and I don't want to keep having to soak them in lemon juice. Next up was a black tip with a forged carbon dial, possibly technically one of the best dive watches I've ever owned. Unfortunately though, I found it wore a little bit flat on my wrist, and I believe it really needed a 22mm bracelet. As you already know, next up is the Horizons 39. So is this going to be a keeper? Let's see. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Zelios Horizons 39. Dimensions according to my calipers. Now the watch is stated as having a 39mm case, whereas I actually measured it at 38.5mm. To be honest though, it wears more like a 38mm watch. That actually suits me fine. It's only got a 10.5mm depth, but the raised box crystal increases that by about 1.8mm, making the total depth 12.3mm. Now the lug width is 20mm, the lug to lug is 44mm. It should be noted that the protruding male end link does increase that to about 49mm, but because it's a relatively small watch, that's not really an issue. Now once adjusted to my 17cm wrist, it weighs about 140 grams. This is a previous Zelios packaging, they've updated it, although this is very premium, cardboard outer, a nice wooden box, leatherette watch roll, and inside that is the 1-year warranty card. And for those of you interested, this is my watch of the day. It's the Christopher Ward C65 Super Compressor. In my opinion, one of the most attractive watches ever made. The crown is unguarded, signed, screwed down, and it's about 6.5mm. It's well knurled and it operates the watch well. The engagement's reasonable, but not quite as refined as say something like a Christopher Ward. Now the water resistance rating is 200 metres, and I'm really glad they didn't go for a greater depth at the cost of a deeper case. Now inside is a Miyota 9015, which I believe bridges the gap between a decent Swiss movement and an NH35. Some people moan about its noisy unidirectional rotor, whereas I've never really found it an issue. Now it's a 4Hz high beat movement that ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour. It hacks, it hand winds, and it's known for its reliability. When regulated correctly, these can be very accurate, but from personal experience they don't always turn up that way, albeit they're generally within spec, which I believe is plus 20 minus 10 seconds a day. Let's see how this one's performing on the time grapher. There we go. I must admit that when it arrived it was running a tad fast, although within tolerance. I've now regulated it. It's pretty much spot on, the amplitude's good, and the beat here is acceptable. The watch has got a box stone sapphire crystal with some AR coating. Now the 60 click bi-directional bezel has got a lume sapphire insert and that looks stunning. The action is heavy, although there's no backplay or bounce. It all lines up beautifully. Now it's a bit confusing, but from what I can gather, if you buy the watch with a 12-hour bezel, you get a 60 click bi-directional version, but if you get the diver's version, you get the 120 click unidirectional bezel. Now the case is superb. It reminds me of the Christopher Ward light catcher case with its combination of light polishing and satin light brushing. It's great that Zelios avoided having boxed sides, and I always believe that makes it look a little bit more elegant. Now it starts off with circular brushing on the top of the lugs. Then the sides are brushed in the middle but sandwiched between two polished transitions. Needless to say, the case back is screwed down and it's embossed with a map of the world. Now there's some basic information engraved around the sides, and you may have noticed this is number 9 of 100. The dial's a bit of a showstopper. This is the cobalt blue version, but there are several other colours. It's got a textured sunburst dial with gilt indices. At the 12, 3 and 9, there are large triangular markers, whilst the rest of the markers are actually quite basic. There's a frame colour matched date window at 6 o'clock. The Zelios emblem is at the 12, whilst above the date window it simply reads Horizons 200 metres. I think I would describe the hands as being batoned, and like the indices are filled with X1C3 lume. Like all Zelios watches, the lume is absolutely fantastic. Let's have a look at the lume. Moving on to the bracelet, well, it's a type of oyster bracelet, only the links are actually a little bit more rounded. It's satin brushed, although on the transitions here it's polished. It's all done very well. It's extremely comfortable. Unfortunately, it does have male end links, and I mentioned that earlier, but they do fit the watch perfectly. It's got well engineered screw pins for adjustment. Adjusting this watch was extremely easy. Now moving on to the clasp, it's a lovely clasp. Now this one did arrive with a scratch on it actually, but a scotch pad and a little bit of polish soon got that out. And it's got this on the fly adjustment. It's similar to the one on the Chris Ward. All in all, the bracelet and the clasp are absolutely excellent. Price and value for money. Well, they started off in life on an early bird offer and they were $449. They shortly went up to $549. At the point of producing this video, Zelios are presently out of stock. Now I picked up a year-old one for £265, which I consider was a really good price. I believe at $449 it was a decent purchase, but perhaps at $549, not such a bargain. Of course, that's up to you to decide. QC issues, likes and dislikes. Now mine was purchase used, so I had a scratched clasp to contend with, but needless to say that wasn't the fault of Zelios, and these things just happen anyway, don't they? The watch has been designed for smaller to average wrists, so putting a protruding end link on the watch may eliminate people with particularly small wrists from wearing it. Finally, on this particular watch, the bezel action is far too heavy. Other than that, there isn't much to dislike, from the stunning dial to the outstanding case shape and finish to the incredible lume and that wonderful bracelet and clasp. Now this watch really is very good. So just to summarise things, when I ordered this, for some strange reason I didn't think I'd be particularly taken with it, but I was wrong, very wrong. I particularly like more dressy divers and this suits the bill perfectly. Unless my taste changed drastically, I can really see this as a keeper and I'm absolutely delighted I bought it. So for those of you with wrists that aren't the size of Hattie Jake's thighs, and want a very nice looking quality diver that won't leave you broke, I would strongly suggest the Zelios Horizons 39. That brings me to the end of this review. If you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below and enjoy the rest of your day.